Welcome to Connections and Conversations, an Advocacy Arena podcast, working to increase civic engagement and strengthen our communities. Welcome back to another episode of Connections and Conversations. I am so happy to be here today with one of my favorite people, Representative Lauren Ashley Simmons. And it just brings me such joy to be able to say that. Say hello to the folks in Advocacy Arena community and tell them what district in Texas you represent.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm State Representative Lauren Ashley Simmons. I represent House District 146. So if you're familiar with Houston, it's where NRG Stadium is, where Beyonce performs and all the big concerts, and where our professional football team, the Texans, play. I represent about 200,000 constituents.
Okay, so deep in the heart of Texas. I love it. And I've been waiting to do this interview because I know to me, you kind of represent what I think of as representatives. People are elected. You are someone who ran because of the things that you saw going on in your community. I know that I kind of know this. I just want to give a little recap to the audience what inspired you to run for office.
Yes, it was a number of things. One, the representative that we had at the time, the singer, was elected from our community. We're a big blue Democratic district, and she had taken some votes that really, in my opinion, didn't align with our values. We voted in favor to ban gender affirming care for youth. There was another vote that she had taken that just targeted already vulnerable communities. And then the HISD takeover happened. And so Houston Independent School District is the largest school district in Texas. It's been a target of the governor for a really long time, who just this last session was able to push his voucher thing through by basically primarying a number of members of his own party and new a big class of representatives who voted in favor of the things that he wanted. And so with all of those things happening, it just felt like it was time for me to step up. I'm an organizer, union organizer by profession. I'm still an organizer because we have a part-time legislature here. And so all of us who are not wealthy still work. Yeah, I'm serving in my first term, and it has been an absolute whirlwind. We just completed our 140-day session. We meet on the biennium, but the governor has called us back for a special session. So I'll actually be returning to Austin on Monday. And again, on behalf of my constituents.
That's awesome. And I want to say also that, you're talking to me during a time when your state has had quite a few natural disasters. So my heart goes out to the people of Texas. I don't know how close that community is to you.
It's not far. It's about 2.5 hours away, but it's not far from the capital. So it's maybe an hour, maybe 45 minutes or so from Austin. So the devastation is widespread. We actually had some children who were from Houston who were lost in that flood. So it has touched and expands throughout Texas. And I'm keeping those families in prayer. And it's also just, a reminder for me as an elected representative that the work that we do is extremely important. Not to say that, any number of representatives, but it does make me take pause and think about the gap that we left in legislation that could have been life saving, that could have been helpful.
I'm sure that does. And hopefully, in your special session, you guys will be able to pass some legislation and protections and give some assistance to those that have been affected by this. Again, like I said, I think the whole country is, sending prayers and support to your community and the folks that are affected. But because this is your first term as a representative, I wanted to ask you what the most surprising thing maybe that you found when you got into office.
Honestly, I knew that our legislature met on a biennium for, us 140 days, but I think just being in it, kind of just how jam-packed that actually is. We got sworn in January 14th. We voted on the Speaker of the House that same day. And then there's kind of just this lag in between sworn in and committee assignments. So for a couple of weeks, it just felt like things were moving really, really slowly until they weren't. And, it was just very fast paced. And we jam a lot into a very short amount of time. We vote on hundreds of bills a day. Once we get started. But from being there from January 14th, I didn't take my first official vote until I want to say about March. And so from that time till signing die, it's just kind of hitting the pavement, moving. I think that was really surprising because people can describe that pace to you, but when you're in it, you're in it. We would think there's days where I get to the Capitol at 7:30, my committee meets at 8, and then it might be, 2 or 3 a.m. before we leave, depending on what the bill is up or what we're doing on the floor that day. So that was really surprising. And also, I think the other part that was surprising is just knowing how important relationships are. It's 150 of us in the House, 31 state senators. On our side, it takes 76 votes to get anything done. It's 62 Democrats, 88 Republicans. And so, really having to learn how to navigate that system, find common ground with people that I normally, wouldn't probably even say hello to, and having to figure out how we can work together to get things done for the people of Texas was very interesting.
Yes, I imagine so, and I think that that's probably something that a lot of people who are not aware of how government works to understand that those collaborative skills that are needed, and it's a little different from activism and that sort of thing. You say you pass so many bills. How do you read and bring yourself up to speed to be knowledgeable enough to vote on those things? Do you have a team that helps you navigate that?
Yeah, it's a combination of kind of, doing some of the work myself. I had a really awesome capital staff. A lot of them were interns because our budgets in the state legislature are very, very tight. And so we have to be extremely cognizant of how we spend our funds. And so a lot of us were like interns from different university programs. But my senior level staff had experience in the building and they had, worked in different offices. And so we had an awesome, policy director. We have the legislative study group that gives us bill analysis. And then, like I said, a combination of kind of going through and understanding what this means for my constituents, what this means for the people in Texas. Most of the bills that we vote on are really non-controversial. Most things pass out of our legislature 100 plus votes. The stuff that you hear about, the things that we argue about, the things that really hurt people and harm people, the stuff that makes the headlines is what typically gets the most attention. But a lot of the day-to-day stuff is just kind of run-of-the-mill bills that really just are doing the work of the state. Served on the appropriations committee and the public health committee, and so a lot of bills come through public health. It's one of the top. I think public education may have more bills that comes through, but it's one of the ones that a lot of bills actually come through that committee. Appropriations, we are the ones putting the budget together, and so being able to have to kind of really be mindful of my time, not just worrying about my own bills and then the bills that I have coming through committee, and then to get to the floor and be ready to vote. But it's like I said, a combination of a really awesome staff, work with various caucuses that help us with their own analysis. And then it's something I look to do a little bit more. I actually started the labor and workforce caucus, and so we'll be hopefully next session helping out a little bit more around that bill analysis piece as it pertains to working people.
Well, that's wonderful. And I know that one of the things that I kind of connected with you on and invited you into our Monday Good Trouble chats that we were having over on X, which we now have on Spoutable. So if you're ever not busy and have some free time, same time, but different different app, we're still there doing what we do. And I know that we spoke a lot about education that I think was something that's near and dear to your heart. So, have you been able to kind of do anything around education, or do you just feel good being there, being able to be a voice and make a difference in other ways? But I know that just as a mother, with children like you, like me, I mean, I have a granddaughter. I care about education. Have you been able to effectuate any difference in that area, or do you look to?
So on the appropriations committee, we're split up into subcommittees. And so I was on Article 3, which is education funding. And so we primarily oversee the funding of the university system, even institutions within that. we kind of give what we call like a block grant to the K through 12, and we kind of let public education committee work that out. But as far as being able to help, provide resources for programs, we were able to attach some riders to the appropriations bill, the best bill with all of the funding sources that supported some programs that I think are really important, like early childhood education, literacy programs. Really just trying to make sure that we are preparing our children for the future, and closing as many gaps as we can. I did not ask to be on the public education committee for a number of reasons. One thing, seniority in our side of the chamber, and I think both sides of the chamber is really important. So the way committee assignments work is that the speaker gets seniority picks, which are pretty much kind of predetermined by your order of seniority in the House, and then the speakers have a choice to put you on certain committees. And so, as a freshman, I'm number 18 within my class of 32, but then I'm like 100 and something, so way down on the hierarchy. And so I knew that that was one that I probably would not get. But also, to just to be quite honest, there's a lot of work that goes into that public education committee. They would have 12, 18-hour committee hearings. And I know that that would have been a little difficult for me to swing because I was really adamant about being on appropriations. And so it worked out really well that I was able to request to be on Article 3. Because I really, I think as much as, we talk about all of the gaps that are in public education, funding is a huge part of that. And so that's kind of where my focus is. And then, locally and back home, I'm still doing the same work that I was doing before. I'm actually going to be supporting a number of school board candidates who are running. So, if you remember, our district has been taken over. And so our school board trustees basically have lost their power, but those elections still occur. So we have a board of managers that's been installed by the state, but those school board trustees are still on the ballot. They're still running for office. And the hope is that once we gain power, independence back over the districts, that we'll have an opportunity to have some really awesome people serving those capacities. So that's what I'm, doing locally, while I'm here on the ground until Monday. When we just return for this 30-day special session.
Wow. So busy lady as always, and I know your time is very valuable, and I appreciate you carving out a little bit of it to spend with us and let us catch up with you. And as we start to wrap up here, I told you I wouldn't keep you long. I just wanted to give you an opportunity just to speak to the audience, and share any information, call to action, or words of wisdom or inspiration that you'd like to pass on to uh, them.
Absolutely. So right now we're headed back to Austin for a fight. And so the way special sessions work, they're narrow in scope. It's basically what the governor outlines as agenda items, and we have to work within that kind of narrow framework. One of the charges that's been sent down from the top, President Trump, has decided that he wants to, get a few congressional seats in Texas. And so it is our job in the legislature. We draw those maps and we vote on those maps. And so right now, what they're trying to do is basically weaken and steal power, and not just, power, but specifically from Black and Brown communities. Two of the congressional districts that are in my House district, Congressional District 1, which is Representative Al Jones, and Representative, Congressional District 18, were targeted by the Trump administration for redistricting. And so last legislative session, well, excuse me, not last legislative session, but the last redistricting process, they actually tried to combine those two historically Black districts. We're thinking that the same thing is going to happen this time around. And so we're going to fight for our community, our districts, but really for this country. Because if Republicans are able to gain 3 or 4 seats through a redistricting process, that has a huge impact on the composition of the federal congressional legislature. And we do not want to cede any more power, and so we are working very hard to come up with strategies to figure out how do we combat this. So I'm telling everybody to pay attention. What happens in Texas changes the world. And, we saw what happened in North Carolina. we don't want to be, and then I think the next target is Ohio. And so I've been telling people to pay attention, where they're coming in the call line, and we're kind of the last line of defense and preserving and protecting democracies.
Well, thank you so much. We'll certainly keep an eye on that, and we know that they're working really hard to take power, and it means that we just have to fight harder to keep what we have, and then to gain in new areas. And again, appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being a democracy warrior for us in Texas. But as you said, many of the things that happen there. Ripple out into the nation and the world, and has an effect. So I just want to say thank you for fighting for us and for your constituents. And we look forward to maybe catching up with you again really soon.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for the work that you do. It is so important, especially now being on the other side of the election. One, I have to send y'all so much love. Advocacy Arena was right in my corner, and it was so nice to have a digital home and then a digital family to fall into. But also because of what happens in these buildings, in these legislatures, in these programs, a lot of times the average person does not have enough time to kind of sit and read through all of the work. So it's people like you to ensure that our communities are well informed and are ready for the fight. So I'm so immensely grateful to you and all of the work that you do. And I'm just so proud to see how far we have both come in this journey. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you. And I'm wishing you a great rest of the day, and rest. Take care. I know you're going to keep fighting. And just know we're rooting for you. And we know that you are there in spirit, even when, you can't join us. So.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure I do the best that I can to keep y'all informed about what's going on with this special session because like I said, it's really important and we want to make sure that people across the country know what's happening in Texas. So I'll definitely be in contact with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Connections and Conversations. This is one of many wonderful interviews that we bring to you to help connect you to a larger community of advocates and changemakers across the country. You'll get a glimpse into the various ways people are making an impact in their communities. My hope is that it will inspire you to get engaged in some small way as well. We can't all do everything, but at this moment in history, we can all do something. What are you doing? One of the things you can do is to continue to listen, subscribe, and share this Advocacy Arena podcast. You can also join and support the growing grassroots Advocacy Arena community in other ways. Join our weekly live chats hosted on Spoutable every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe to our Substack to get great articles on important topics and exclusive access to extended interview conversations. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. We've got some exciting programming lined up. And keep listening to our regular podcast episodes wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, subscribe and give us that all-important 5-star review.